Hey everyone, Goddess of Chaos, Goddess of Chaos, Goddess of Chaos. Hey everyone, Goddess of Chaos here. Just wanted to check in, wanted to do a quick little video, wanted to see how everyone's doing, how's your summer going. As you can tell, I've got a nice little tan going on, been doing some swimming, trying to get some exercise, maybe lose a little bit of weight, probably not, but hopefully. And as you can see, the chlorine has been doing quite the number on my color. But anyways, I know it has been a little bit since I've really posted a video. And so I just wanted to take a minute and go ahead and do that for you, I guess. Now, I know a lot of my viewers, well, not that I have a lot of viewers, but I know some of you like whenever I do toxic workplace videos. So, let's see what we can find. Stay tuned. And how could I forget your favorite little co-host, Betsy Rose.
We need to start preparing young women for the workplace drama that involves just a random old lady having one-sided beef with you.
Random old white women in corporate America being like the biggest bullies you've ever encountered, like so rude for no reason, is something that nobody on this planet prepared me for. And we need to talk about it, because like why? For what? Why is a random 45-year-old woman named Linda beefing with me for no reason at all? And let me be clear, when I start a new job, I am a people pleaser. Like, I am overly nice. I want everyone to get along because I don't want to keep going through the whole repeated pattern of like, oh, we're like a big family, like toxic corporate work culture thing that keeps happening. And it's literally the reason like I do freelance work now. I don't want to deal with these weird dynamics in workplaces. Because recently I went down a side of TikTok where it was like women of color coming forward and sharing that white women in corporate America were some of the worst people they have to deal with. And I fully support them because they truly are. Obviously, their reasons for feeling that way are probably a lot different than mine, but they really are. And I genuinely don't know why. Because, like, is it good old-fashioned misogyny? Do they still genuinely, like, believe there isn't enough space in the corporate world for all women, so they have to turn it into, like, a weird competition constantly? I've worked in a number of them now, and there's always at least one woman in there somewhere that is just determined to make your life miserable. One job I had, my boss was a woman, and I noticed that everyone they hired for our department, they purposely hired both women and women who were like super young. And I mean like they were either still in college or they had just graduated like that year. Like they had to be 21. Because she had a tendency to really infantilize all the people who reported to her and like wanted to be like a mentor that people looked up to, but kind of like were never on her level. And I remember one day it slipped out somehow that I was actually 24 and she thought the whole time I was like 20 or 21 and it was just a little bit awkward. That was only where the problems began to start though, because then one day when she was out of the office and like her boss though was in, he walked in on me doing some random work because I got bored. I finished all my work. So I logged into the back end of the website. We worked in marketing, right? But I have a degree in like UX, UI and all that other stuff. And since I was bored, I was fixing the coding and whatnot on the back end of the website, asked my boss if I could do it. She was like, sure, if you've got time. Because the website was really messed up. And he walked in, you know, we were chit-chatting, we were having a good time, and he saw that I was doing this and asked me about it, and he was like really impressed. He didn't know that I could do this. And I was like, yeah, I mean, no one's ever really asked me what my background is here at the company. And literally like a few minutes later after he leaves, I get an email CC'd with like my boss and other people that I've been promoted essentially, aka they're just gonna pay me more. But essentially the message of the email was like, oh, we see that you have a lot of value, that you're important to the company, and we like want to make sure that you stay here. And that's when the problems with my boss who sat above me really started.
The lady boss felt threatened. She knew that her boss came in, saw a younger lady doing a really good job. Now you're getting promoted or getting a raise. Now she's thinking, oh no, my job's at stake. They're going to replace me with, you know, she was thinking that they were going to replace her with you. I dealt with a boss like that. My first job out of college, it was at a manufacturing plant. I was an administrative assistant. And it just seemed that, I think the lady that hired me, her name was Luann. She was probably about in her 40s, and I just was out of college. I was 20, 21 years old, whatever. and she just had something against me. And looking at this video, it just kind of reminded me of her. Come to think of it, a lot of the other girls in the office were about my age as well. But the thing is, she was all buddy-buddy with them, but she just had something against me. I have no idea. I have no idea why. I asked her for a piece of gum once, and she's like, why? Because, yeah, I have bad breath. Like, if you don't have a piece of gum, that's fine. Anyway, it's just stupid things like that. It's just like, really? And I was nothing but kind to her. But anyways, let's continue on. I want to hear the rest.
I don't know exactly why, but she started making my day-to-day life very difficult with like menial things for no reason. Like, she would write up all the random mistakes that happened in the office, not always mine, not usually mine. Some of them were hers too, and she would report me to HR, so I'd have to go to HR, and I don't know how to argue that. Like, my boss is saying I did this. Ironically, after that, I then got written up and sent to HR for asking too many clarifying questions about stuff that I should know. However, I was just trying to make sure we didn't have any more mistakes at the company. Like, it started to be a running joke in our department, because I was chill with everyone else in the department, that like at any random given moment, I could be just sent to HR to be lectured and yelled at for things that really just didn't make any sense. And it was like a funny running joke in the office because like everyone else was also starting to have problems with her. So I felt pretty comforted in that fact. But it even got to the point where I was like crying in the bathroom at work most days, and she still yelled at me for doing that because it was unprofessional. But I specifically remember one day, our big boss came back from a lunch with one of our coworkers, and so he was hanging out in like our office, because literally like 6 of us shared an office. It was a really weird setup, but we were all hanging out, having fun. We were joking, we were laughing. He and I were like shooting jokes back and forth, and we were laughing our butts off. I thought it was like a really good day, and then I look over at her in the corner, and she's giving me like the evilest look I've ever seen in my life. And I don't know why. I can't figure out why, but I know that I'm about to be offed once he leaves the room. But after he leaves, she literally just like packs up and leaves for the day. And then the next day I come into the office, and of course I get called into HR. And she has told HR that everyone in our department, all like 7 or 8 of us, apparently have written up that they're uncomfortable with my behavior at work. And I'm sitting here bawling in HR because I have no idea. Everyone hates me, essentially, is what she's saying. Like, no one wants me there. Like, and I don't know what to say to that. And I'm like, could you give me some examples? Like, if I don't want to make everyone uncomfortable, like, could you tell me what I could do to change? They can't give me a single example because there are none. I remember I'm bawling. She says, go take a walk before you go back to the office because, like, I don't want people seeing this. And I was just like, no. I went straight back to the office where all our coworkers were bawling. They're like, what happened? Like, what did you get written up for this time? And I was like, apparently every single one of you filed a report about me. And everyone's looking at each other going, literally no one in here has ever complained about you once. And they were all so sweet and understanding and comforting to me in that moment. Like, I knew they were telling the truth, but I did not want to continue to fight this grown lady and our HR over this. So I just wrote like my 2 weeks notice, and I turned it in the next day and left the company. And I won't lie, slowly but surely, pretty much everyone left after me because they also had these problems. But I've definitely experienced like stuff like this in other companies too, and I just don't understand, like, do they just not think we can all coexist? Is it because it's like marketing, and like marketing's considered a young person's game, so they feel threatened? Like, I don't know, but it's wild, and no one tells you that this is going to be another thing you get to deal with later in life.
Watching the last bit of that video again just reminded me I didn't put my 2 weeks in because I was young. I was still chicken about quitting a job. I also didn't like the idea of quitting a job unless I had another one lined up. But it wasn't long before I did have another one lined up. However, what they did was they laid me off because they knew I was going to be moving about an hour and a half away to live with my now husband. And this was the best birthday present ever. They bought a cake for my birthday that year, just like they did with everybody, so it's not like I was special or anything. I think for me, she just bought it just so that she could have an excuse to have a cake. I don't know. But anyways, after that, she called me in her office, and she explained that, since they knew I was going to be looking for another job to move about an hour and a half away with my husband. They were going to be laying me off. And man, if I had the physical capabilities to do a cartwheel, I would have. I mean, the happiest day of my life, the day that I got married, the day that I had my beautiful daughter, Raina, that's up there in like at least the top 10, I would say. It was the day that they told me that I was going to be going on unemployment. It wasn't the job or the company that made me miserable. It was the lady that worked there. And I can't say that I could have turned her into HR because it was a small family business and she basically was HR. She like did everything, you know. So anyways, those are the last little bit of thoughts on that video there. Let's see what else I can cook up for you.
There are way too many companies and bosses that don't take bullying and abuse at work seriously. And we've all talked about quiet quitting, but I would like to coin the term quiet bullying. There are so many deceptive behaviors that coworkers and bosses get away with because they're not technically illegal. So what do some of these things look like? So quiet bullying would be something like their body language is just always ugly towards you. They're rolling their eyes. They're always looking at you when they're in groups of other people, and then they giggle, constantly CCing your boss in on emails like you're 5 years old and you don't know how to do anything. Speaking over top of you in meetings, constantly trying to get other people on the team against you, including your own boss, in very subtle ways, slowly and over time, but really chipping away at people's perception of you, excluding you from things, like not telling you about in meetings, or say it was your day off and there was some piece of important information that they were supposed to relay to you and they don't, on purpose to make you look stupid. This can also look like minimizing things when you report something and they act like it's just really not a big deal, or you're confiding in a coworker about some kind of abuse or bullying or something serious and they minimize that. Another really big one is stealing credit for your work. And the thing is that while this is something that a lot of people will say, grow up, it's just part of being in the work world, get over it. Sometimes people earn bonuses and get looked at for promotions when they do a good job and when they come up with great creative ideas. And when someone continues to steal your intellectual property and pass it off as their own, and they keep getting favored because of that, it can absolutely wear away at your mental health. So I want to start using the hashtag quiet bullying and start talking about this a little bit more. Legal ways to hold people accountable when you can get documentation of real abuse and bullying that's very pervasive and there's clear evidence of that. But these are the things that happen to so many people so often, and they're so hard to prove, but it's very real and it really does wear away at people.
Okay, so just a couple thoughts on that last one. Quiet quitting is the result of quiet bullying. Just my personal thoughts. The last place I worked at, I don't know if you'd call it quiet bullying, but there are many times I felt that I was disrespected. No one ever stole my ideas, but I think my ideas were, pretty good. I was advertising for the products that we sold on, I sold pools and spas. I don't know if I've ever mentioned that to you. I may have, but when we first started selling spas at the location I worked at the time, a lot of people, didn't know that. And I would go on Facebook Marketplace, take a few photos of the spas that we had on display. Hey, there's a sale coming up. There's a few other things that I tried to implement at the store I worked at, mostly to keep the store clean and organized. I would put in sign-in sheets just so that people would know who cleaned the bathroom, when it was clean, things like that. I was basically the only one doing it, using the sign-in sheet. Things like that, just things that I thought that would help us stay clean, organized, and help us become a more profitable location, if I can talk. There were also times when I can't really think of a specific example, but when my boss at the time, when I thought that they were quiet bullying me, and I was, confiding in another coworker, which had since proved to be a bad idea. Turns out I couldn't trust them either. I'm sure I've talked about them on my channel before. But, oh, Leslie, you should have did better. Yeah, I mean, there were always, there were excuses made as to why I was treated in a certain way at the one location I worked at. And just not being taken seriously, leaving notes like, everyone in the store at all times, Leslie, this means you, because I was a pool and spa specialist, and I worked in an office a lot of the time. A lot of my job was to call and do follow-ups for customers. Of course, I would go to the register too. But, yeah, it was like notes that were left on the register or in the lunchroom that specifically pointed me out, but was for everyone to see. Didn't appreciate it, so I guess I would call that quiet bullying. Well, it got to the point where I was tired of being picked on, and I stepped down from being a pool and spa specialist because, heck, there were times pool and spa specialists, they were supposed to be the first ones in line to get the customers that wanted pools and spas. My manager at the time constantly took the customers before me. Not only did I not get as much commission when he did that, but it also, I felt very degraded and disrespected. And I ended up stepping down because I was just tired of constantly coming home and just not being happy, just not having the feeling that I did a good job that day. And sometimes it stemmed from that. And then what also happened after that is, after I stepped down, I also transferred to another location where I didn't get, I just had like the customer service title, which was fine. But it was like 100% difference. I loved working at the Washington store, but I'm glad I took another job where I work now, because it turns out the manager that I was working with at the one location, guess what's the location he's working at now? In Washington. That was the second location that I really liked. So, yeah, I dodged a bullet. Anyways, rant over. I got one more video to do for you, and we'll see where we go from there.
Ever been fired for giving a 2-week notice? That's right, children. It's time for another game of HR horror stories. Corporate America has this wonderful thing where they like to say nobody wants to work anymore, and then they do things like this, and people wonder why. Leslie writes in, I've been with my company for almost 7 years. I've seen countless people come and go. I even made it through the layoffs. So I understood we were short-staffed, but we hadn't gotten raises since COVID, and I needed to make more money. I respectfully put in my 2-week notice. I even did a letter of intent. I had always been a cheerleader for the company, and in my letter stated that I was happy with the company, but it was time for me to move on and do bigger and better things. See, they told me a while back that my secretary position was capped at $15 an hour. There was no more funds for them to pay me. Other than a cost of living raise, I was capped out. Again, in my letter, I stated I was willing to train someone else and that they had 2 weeks and even longer if they needed me to train somebody to fill my position. If you think high school drama travels fast, wait until you get into the corporate world. By 4 o'clock that afternoon, everybody knew that I was leaving. My boss called me into the office at 4:55. Now, granted, we leave at 5 o'clock. I figured it was a, hey, I hate you're leaving. No, it was a clean out your desk before you leave. Today is your last day. How dare you leave us in a tight spot? You know that we are short-staffed. Clearly, you're not a team player, so there's no room for you here. So my 7 years of service, coming in early and staying late, working countless hours, meant nothing at the end of the day. I wasn't too terribly upset because I had planned on leaving in the first place. But you tell me, corporate America, I've done everything that you had asked us to do just for you to get rid of me when I tried to do it respectfully. Is there even a point of doing a 2-week notice if you're going to give your employees a 2-day notice, as in 2 day is your last day? Hey, if you have a HR horror story, please tell us down here in the comments. And if you're a walking HR violation or HR scapegoat, well, please check out the stickers up here.
Okay, that's one thing I will admit. I have never been fired on the day that I put in a 2-week notice. So no, that, not this Leslie. But one thing I do want to touch on, and it really doesn't make sense. She was giving them 2 weeks. They fired her on the spot because they were short-handed, and how dare she leave them in a tight spot? Okay, they had 2 weeks to find somebody and have her still work there. They just left themselves in even a tighter spot. Does that make any sense to you? Not me. Anyways, I'm going to ponder that. In the meantime, that is the last video I'm going to do for the night. While I ponder this and maybe find some more crazy, toxic workplace, coworker, boss stories, until next time, go out into the world and cause a little bit of chaos. Even better if it's in the workplace. Feel free to drop your comments below. Toxic workplaces, anything. Drop a comment, drop a like, hit subscribe. Please share my content. You can't gatekeep this. I mean, you got to share me with the world. Anyway, have a good night. See you later.